Good morning, this Thursday morning, continuing our series on the church under lockdown and how we are still free even though we're locked down, the roots of Christian freedom. And I tried to point out yesterday that Christian freedom is very much tied to who you think or what you think is ruling your life. The world is ruled by various principalities and powers, but we are not meant to be ruled by them. We're meant to be ruled by Christ. But if we are ruled by them, then our ideas of freedom will be based on what the ruling powers permit us to do. What measure of freedom is left to us under the powers that be. Our rights and our privileges will be granted by those powers, and they'll be our freedoms. And in the same way, our freedom will be curtailed by those same powers, restricted by them. In fact, the principalities and powers that rule the world can take away most of our freedoms. We can be restrained. We might be imprisoned for some reason or put under house arrest. Maybe you feel like you're under house arrest at the moment. We can be isolated. The powers that be can shun us, they can diss us, they can encourage people to even hate us. There are economic pressures that can be used. Property can be confiscated, you can be thrown out of a job and lose your income, and ultimately, of course, we can be removed, whether it's by the official death penalty or by state violence of some form. Many powers in the past have used the power of exile to just remove people from the scene. The book of Revelation was written by a man who was exiled on an island in the Mediterranean. But the Christian is meant to be free. How are we free from the powers of this age? When you think about it, we're surrounded, aren't we, by the principalities and powers of this current passing age. There is the power of violence, which is more or less the monopoly of the government. The police power, the power to start wars and wage wars. There's the power of money, which is immensely powerful in our society, economic power. That power can really dominate us, the power of money. Many people are in debt today, and they're discovering again with the loss of income that debt and slavery are closely related in history and in the Bible, in experience as well. Freedoms can be bought and sold, economic power, and of course if people are really wealthy they can buy the power of violence. In some countries the government is basically under the power of a financial mafia. The principalities and powers seem to be able, in fact, to exercise quite a lot of power over Christians. And then there are all sorts of inherited structures which we often don't even think about. But think about how ethnic loyalties sometimes can dominate and be used for anti-Christian purposes. The power of the tribe, the power of the clan. Racism is a species of this, an artificial tribe. You invent a race and then you claim that you're being loyal to that race. There are family ties, and there are religious influences. Inherited influences we don't always think about very much, but which do have a power over our lives. And these are what Paul in his writings calls the elemental principles, or the basic principles of this world. And sometimes those principles become doctrines and ideologies and religions. Sometimes they're not even examined. They're sort of underlying prejudice, social conventions, which are very powerful, which can hold people quite rigidly in their sway. And all these things together keep us obedient to the powers that be, the principalities and powers of this passing age. Now in the Bible, these principalities and powers are personalized. They're treated as if they were beings, spiritual beings, or little gods. For instance, in the book of Revelation, you have them personalized as the beast, the false prophet, and Babylon. The beast is obviously the Roman Empire in its first incarnation, but there are clues there that the beast can change its heads, can put up with apparently fatal injuries and come bouncing back. So the beast represents what the Roman Empire did in those days and what the modern rulers and empires do today. The power to wage war, the power to dominate, the power to kill, the power to decide who can buy and sell. And there's also Babylon the Great, the super wealthy elite, the wealthy city that can buy people as well as things and sell them, and whose wealth and luxury makes her unstable but powerful. And then there's the power of religion and ideology, which is bundled up in the second beast out of the earth, the false prophet, who can look a little bit like Jesus, but isn't. But all of these powers, these principalities, are guilty. They're under judgment. They're actually under sentence of death. But they still have power in this world. So let's get on to the more interesting part of this. What does it mean to be free from these powers? What does it mean to no longer be ruled by them? Well, it can't mean that they can't affect us, because we live in this world. We live in the world where violence, money, tribal loyalties, family pressures, all kinds of things still touch our lives. We can be imprisoned or killed. We can be dispossessed, thrown out of our homes and our jobs. We can be shunned. We can be excommunicated. We can be slandered. We can become the scum of the earth. So what is this freedom that Christians have? Well, obviously it's not a complete freedom. It's not the freedom to do what you like when you like. But nevertheless, it is a real freedom. And because I try to keep these talks short, this talk will just hint at the freedom we have. Tomorrow I want to spend all of the meditation just examining and enjoying our freedom as Christians. But it's all based on the fact that we are joined to Christ. We have died with Christ, and we have been raised with Christ. What I read yesterday from Colossians is still very, very important. It is the basis of Christian freedom. Christ was under the powers of this age, and on the cross he disarmed them. He showed them up for what they really are in all their ugliness, and he defeated them at the cross. He bore everything that they can do to us, and at the end he left them defeated. And we know that because he was raised from the dead. He was raised to prove that the cross really worked. Jesus defeated the powers of this age, because the worst thing they can do is cause us pain, injury, excommunication, unpopularity, hostility, and then finally death. And that's what Jesus bore. He took it all. He suffered the package of everything the powers of this age could throw at him, and he rose victorious, undefeated. In fact, the powers of this age are under death sentence because Jesus has exposed this world as simply not good enough. It is broken, it is corrupt, it is ruled by unworthy principalities and powers. Jesus is Lord. And when we say that, we mean he's Lord over everything and over every principality. He's Lord over every power. And he has shared his victory with us. His freedom is complete. He is now exalted high above all of those things. And he rules on the throne in heaven. And as he rules, he shares his freedom with us. Colossians 2 mentions baptism. With baptism we're buried with Christ, and in baptism we're raised with Christ. We have become free. And Colossians says, now don't be therefore servants of mere rules and regulations, the powers of this age. Don't be ruled by fear, and don't be ruled by desire, which is the way in which people are trapped into sin. We are free. And tomorrow I want to just spend 10 or 12 minutes thinking about freedom. But I had to do today's talk just to say what I mean by principalities and powers. Christians know that they're set free from sin and from guilt. But they don't always realize they're also set free from the powers that rule this age. And I hope today has helped. Anyway, there you are. I hope it wasn't too solemn. And I pray that you'll enjoy your freedom, even if you're locked down this April day. God bless you and keep you. Bye for now.